Yep.
Cool. Thanks for joining me, girls. We're going to talk about our 4 pillars, which particularly Josh from Inspiral and Rich from Lumio have a thread going, and I said I'd respond 2 weeks ago. So at our recent Jeder Institute gathering, we had about 12 people there, and we developed 4 pillars that will hold us really strong in moving forward in a new way of organising. So we've got myself, Dee, and Michelle and Michaela, and we're going to talk about those 4 pillars just briefly on each of them. So the first one is participatory leadership. And I'll give you my take and then ask for the other 2 to join in. Participatory leadership is a practice and a group of processes that we all use anyway. It's from the art of hosting. There's a whole lot of different practices and processes in there, but it's really about when there is a time for particular leadership in a role or a task or something that needs to be done in the organisation, that the person with the strength in leading that will step up into that space and then be able to step back down. And so we can all be leaders. We have a leader in every seat. So participatory leadership is really a guiding pillar for us to all be in this together. So I'd like to ask you, Michelle, what else participatory leadership might mean to you?
I think for me, and being one of our pillars is taking on that particular 4-fold practice. It's not only about that invitation for leaders to step up, but it's also a way of being and doing in the way we host ourselves and we host others, the way we're hosted, and also the way we host our communities. So I think by having art of hosting is something that's a core pillar for us is really important. That gives people that authority, or not authority, but that understanding that they can step into the space, that it's not being led by any one individual, that we've all got the opportunity to step up and to host others. So,
great.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Michaela, do you have anything to add to that one?
I think what I particularly like about it is it coordinates on people's gifts and strengths, and people can use those to contribute to the organisation, to their communities, to people they serve, and that way people are enjoying what they're doing because they're doing what they love, what they're good at, and stretching themselves further into what they want to build their own capacities on. So yeah, it works really well for us.
Yes, thank you. So the next pillar was the generosity of spirit. It's something that I know is very important to all of us. And Michelle and I were talking about it earlier, actually. Many years ago when Michaela and I first met, we'd both been quite badly burned. And instead of really pulling everything tight into our chest, we kind of dared each other to let's open up instead. Let's look the other way and give stuff away free, information and resources, and kind of really buck the system of anything like copyright or anything like that. And so that generosity of spirit has now taken us to a space where we're experimenting with sliding scales and what could it look like for anyone with their gifts to join us and be able to freely give and also to support each other. So seeing as it came from that discussion many years ago, Michaela, to where we are now, I'd like to know what else you would add now to that generosity of spirit.
I think because of our guiding practices, if you like, with the art of hosting and with strengths-based practices, having that generosity feels like we're passing on sacred knowledge and sharing what people have shared with us. And people have been very generous with us as far as their work is concerned, their resources, things that they've developed, things that they've collaborated with other people. And it feels great to have generosity of spirit as a pillar, because we'll be continuing on that generosity and continuing on that sharing of that energy and those good things that help people to have good lives and autonomous, empowered lives.
Great. And Michelle, what would you add to that?
I think when Dee and I were speaking earlier, I was saying it was one of those things that particularly the three of us hold dear, and you think you shouldn't have to explain it, but it does need a bit of an explanation, that not everybody works the way that we do. And like Michaela just said, we've been supported along our journeys over the years to be able to pay it forward and not be guardians of knowledge and lock it away and be the gatekeepers of it, to be able to say, well, this is what we've learned, and we're happily share our information, our knowledge. We all do considerable pro bono work, that it's, it's not for us all about the money or the resources or holding everything close to us. It's about, sharing and bringing other people along on the journey as well.
Yeah, beautiful. That made me teary.
Well, it is, because, a lot of people have worked a lot of years on these tools and practices and skills, and a lot of them are sacred teachings from elders that we're honoured to pass along, and that should be given freely.
And I think it's the honouring of those creators as well, that we're, whilst we do play around and create our own stuff, a lot of it is blends from amazing work that other people have done over the years. So I think, to be able to pass that on and not hold it close is really, really important.
So while you talk about that, Michelle, kind of segues nicely into the next pillar, which is the co-creation for change. So thinking of that with all the blends and all the different personalities and methodologies and people and everything we have. So what does the co-creation for change mean to you as a pillar?
I think the co-creation for change, for me, again, it builds on those participatory leadership skills about bringing everybody together and being a part of it. So it's, communities collaborating, it's our team collaborating, it's people coming together and creating new stuff in a really participatory way, where, again, it's not us holding on to our knowledge. So it builds on sort of the previous two pillars of the participatory leadership and generosity of spirit, to understand that we can all do this together, and we want to invite people into that space to come and co-create with us. That sort of analogy of, we want everybody playing in the sand pit together. It's not it's not our sand pit, it's everybody's sand pit. So that's probably the best way I can describe it.
Nice, thanks. And Michaela, co-creation for change, what does it mean for you?
I want a water slide off the side of the sand pit.
You can have one.
And I can create that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool, because they do all blend together, and when we work in the way that we do, with gifts and strengths and inclusion and all of those great things that we hold so dear to us, the co-creation part comes really, really easily and naturally, and people that link in with us and our pillars and the way that we do things, it's hard work, but it's joyous hard work. We're doing it together, and we're sharing the load, and it's not all up to one person, and it's not about the buck stops here. We share that buck, sandpit, water slip. Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it more fun.
Yeah.
It does. So for me, the co-creation for change is it's all that co-creation, everything that you two just talked about, and anyone's welcome and all of that. But the change part of it for me, and I know it's a very passionate area for both of you and for all of our members as well, is that it's about authentic and real change, and it's about how we can be transparent in the work that we do, but also very thoughtful and creating change in the world that is needed, or what is being called for in the world. And if we can be a part of that and be at the heart of change with all the other wonderful people that we play with, then that's all the better. And it can be kind of deeper knowledge, which also goes back to our blends and who we work with. So, it's that. I love that it's co-creation for change. And I think that really strengthens that as a pillar.
Absolutely.
So the last one is self-organising. So with self-organising, and I've been thinking quite a bit about this one, I think it's an area that some people are struggling with, and not struggling with doing it, but understanding it. And I think it's something that, to talk to our other members about self-organising, they might be thinking, does that mean we're on our own? Am I self-organising? Because I'm bringing in my own work and doing my own thing. But self-organising as an organisational pillar is that way that we organise around change and how we co-create. And it's that self-organising kind of brings together all those individual parts that make a whole. So, Michaela, I'd like to ask you what self-organising also means to you.
I think it goes through a number of levels, everything from organising your time of day, what you spend your time on, how much pro bono work you do, how much work you create, how much you need. It's all, you can organise all of that yourself. Then even extrapolate that out to teams and how do they self-organise themselves as a team, and doing that collaboratively. So, and then as an organisation. So it's really cool how we can sit like we did in Pittwater, and we'll do again regularly, as a collective of equals that self-organise. We don't have to have, the facilitator or the boss or any kind of hierarchy like that organises things. We'll do it together ourselves. So, yeah.
And Michelle, what would you add to that?
I think both of you have covered it fairly well, but I think it is quite a challenge for some people, and even for the three of us to get our heads around sometimes, and for others it's such a different way of working within an organisation, that it's not top down, it's not a boss telling you what you should do, what time you should start, where your work comes from. It's that ability to really step into your power and say, actually, I'm responsible for myself. I'm responsible for the work that I bring in. I'm responsible for the sort of work that I want to do. But I've got these amazing supports behind me. So whilst it gives you the freedom almost to work as an independent person, but also that support and that backup of having a team behind you, or like almost a wisdom circle behind you that you can tap into, you can co-create with. It's a whole new way of doing things. It's quite a different paradigm to the way that we're used to working, particularly here in Australia. So it's that sort of bossless organisation that can be a little bit challenging for some. You know, people saying, well, where does my work come from, or how much am I going to be paid, or those sorts of things. Being able to say, well, that's actually all in your own hands. Like, what you put in is what you get out. You know, it's not the way that we're used to, you know, sitting in a workplace, you know, all your blood, sweat and tears go into your work, all of your passion goes into your work, and at the end of the day, you know, you don't feel like you've necessarily filled your bucket. And I see that self-organising is a really good way of nurturing yourself, your relationships, and filling your own bucket.
Thank you. And the only other thing I'd add to that is around the organisational self-organising is we're a living system. So, you know, we constantly morph and shift and move, and we do that in a self-organising way. So we allow people's strengths and talents to come in, and even though it might be up to them, up to individuals to look at the work that they're doing, there's also all those beautiful crossovers within the living system where we might join up and do a project together. And then, as Michaela was saying, we're a self-organising team around a particular project or something that we're doing. So I like that. You know, it can keep shifting and moving and morphing, and that's really nice, because we never know what's around the corner. That's, you know, it's really exciting to kind of live on the edge of change like that and not know what's coming sometimes. But also to have those grounding practices that can hold us solid and keep us good in that. So the only other thing I wanted to put on the end of this is, and I've talked to both of you about it, is I found it really interesting in the week after our gathering, while I was thinking about everything that went on in the work that we did, that strength-based practice or strength-focused approach did not come up. And I was thinking, why did it do that? And where was it? And one thing that I realized in thinking about it was that I think we are so ingrained in strength-based practice, and it's such a pivotal foundation that we stand on, and we all have in our individual work and lives before we even came together. You know, it was something that attracted us all to each other, was that we were strength-focused. So I found it quite interesting that it didn't come up strongly, but it was like it was named in a different way in all the four pillars. It kind of underpinned everything that we talked about. So I like that it's kind of there but not named, and we just know it. It's just intrinsic. Yeah. So is there anything either of you wanted to add to that?
I'm loving the journey that we're on. I think it's really exciting. It's a great new way of doing things. I'm curious to learn more from other people that have been doing collaborative practices and participatory leadership and all of those things. So really looking forward to Rhodes. Thank you.
Thanks. Cool. Absolutely. And I ditto what Mick said. It's that that learning journey that we're all on, and you know, and sometimes it does feel like it's, you know, 10 steps backward to go 2 steps forward, but it's that living system that we're in, that things change and things morph, and as we tap into the skills and the strengths and the talent of those in our collaborative, that's going to change, or in our collective, I should say, that's going to continue to change. And the fact that we're actually all willing and open to go with the flow, and wherever this journey leads us, and whatever we can learn from other people or share with others that we've learned along the way, I think is such a, it's such a great opportunity, and who knows what the future will be. So thanks, Dee.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to Joshua and Rich for calling me out on putting up a little picture and going, hey, here's our pillars, and then going, yeah, now can you please explain? So this is the first time we've really talked about it like this. So the only other thing I'd like to add is that the three of us, the only reason we did it and not some of our other members is we did a collective story harvesting at the gathering that we had. And we broke down all our tasks and roles to look at who else can step up into those. And the three of us, Michaela, Michelle and I, now have a role that we hold called the Vision Vanguards. So just holding that vision and supporting that vision to keep going. So that's why it's the three of us. And I'm sure the other members will have lots to say and add to this in the future. So thank you both for being here. And Michaela, enjoy your daughter's birthday party tonight. And
can I just show off one thing? I have to show off one thing. Sorry.
I bet you this is going to be the birthday cake.
Oh, can you see?
Oh,
wow.
Well done.
Isn't it cool?
Very cool.
Combination of Jazz's talents and mine. I'm the underneath, she's the show.
A prime example of co-creation.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.